Welcome in, Mark Bergin, joined by WRAL sports investigative reporter Brian Murphy. Brian, we've got football this weekend, and you're just coming off a news conference with Tar Heels head coach Mac Brown. Did Coach February get you even more psyched for Saturday? Because I can't believe week 0 is already here.
He did. Mac, it's that time of year. Week 0 is a little strange, right? There's only a couple of games happening, and lucky enough to have one here in our backyard. But Mac's been talking for a long time about returning to that edge, getting his team. I think they rested on their laurels a little bit too much last year. At least he thinks they did. And so it's interesting to hear him talk about how excited he is for this year, a year which North Carolina really doesn't have any expectations.
Yeah, we'll see. Started the Drake Maye era on Saturday, taking over for Sam Howell, who's now in the NFL, the 3-year starter for the Tar Heels. I fully expect to see both quarterbacks come Saturday, though, and Mac Brown has even said as such. So you'll see Drake Maye. He'll get the start. I fully expect to see Jacoby Criswell behind center for the Tar Heels as well. Just kind of what should be fans looking for when it comes to the quarterback play? They'll have a new quarterback under center this season.
I mean, having not seen these guys play, much, they had both played a little bit last year, 4 games, enough to keep that redshirt year and not burn it. I think we knew what to expect with Sam Howell, and so much of the offense was focused on Sam Howell, whether it was him getting the ball out as a passer or him running. I think North Carolina would be happy if their quarterback doesn't have to do all of that. They talked, offensive coordinator Phil Longo talked earlier this week about get the ball out, like let playmakers make plays. That's Josh Downs at wide receiver. They have a whole host of running backs. DJ Jones is going to get the start, but I'm excited to see the 2 freshmen, George Pettaway and Omarion Hampton. They've got a freshman at wide receiver, Andre Green. I mean, they've been recruiting really well for the last 3 or 4 years, and I think now is the time for that talent to emerge on the field and see what it can do. Was it just recruiting hype, or are these guys, legitimate ACC players and difference makers?
Yeah, Brian, you're in my brain because it's amazing how much better Sam Howell looked when he had NFL talent around him. And I'm talking about the Michael Carters of the world, Javonte Williams, Daz Newsome, and so forth. And so for me, it's going to be getting the ball to Josh Downs, your preseason second-team All-American at receiver, and then who's going to be the guy at the running back position. To me, it's like nothing helps a quarterback better than establishing a running game, and we'll see if the Tar Heels can do that early on in the season, because Howell was projected to be, by some, maybe even a first-round pick ahead of last season. A lot of the players that were talented around him went off to the NFL, and it was him and some linemen up front that did get drafted, but he just didn't have as much talent around him as he had in previous seasons.
Yeah, and the bad news for Carolina is that, British Brooks is out for the season. He got hurt in camp. Antoine Green, who was expected to be, their number 2 receiver, got hurt, is out, maybe out for up to 2 months. They've already lost 2 important, skill position players, and they're going to lean even more heavily, I think, on some of the freshmen that they've been bringing in.
Absolutely. And I fully expect the Tar Heels to take care of business on Saturday against Florida A&M. I was looking at the betting lines. There isn't one for this game. And so it's an FCS program. And here's what fans need to know, point blank period. North Carolina has 85 scholarship players on its roster. Yeah. FAMU has only 63. So it's a scenario where North Carolina is paying this team to come in, and teams do this a lot of times early in the season to get right before conference play.
Yeah, but we see every year there are some upsets from the FCS level, defeating teams at the FBS level. Florida State last year lost to Jacksonville State. We see North Dakota State often beat teams out of the Big Ten or the Big 12. So they have 25 transfers. That's one of the big changes, right? College football now, the transfer portal, you can transfer and be eligible right away. They have 25 transfers, at least a handful from Florida State, one from Pitt, one from Wake. So they have guys who have played at the FBS level and for whatever reason have decided to go to Florida A&M. And so I'm not, and given North Carolina's youth, I'm not sure that certainly there's a gap in talent, and certainly there's a gap in number of players. But that gap may not be as big right now, right this moment in week 0, as it would be in week 5 or week 6. if North Carolina is going to do anything this season, this is a game where you've got to take care of business. And certainly the emphasis is on them to do if you do your job, you should handle an FCS team. But this is an FCS team with quite a few players who have experience at the FBS level.
We'll see what happens in that one on Saturday in Chapel Hill. Brian, how much football do you plan to watch on Saturday? Because it's one of 11 games. It's like the appetizer before the main course on Labor Day weekend.
So my daughter turns 3 on Saturday. So we're having a birthday party at our house. So not as much football as I would like to watch. I also need to save some of that time for next weekend, which is a giant weekend. There's games from Thursday through Monday, Labor Day weekend, huge kickoff. Georgia, Oregon, Florida State is at LSU, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Utah, Florida. There are some amazing games next weekend. So I may try to save up some of that time from this weekend and use it next weekend. I am excited to see Nebraska and Northwestern. That game's in Dublin, Ireland. And Scott Frost and Nebraska, I think they lost 7 games last year by 7 or fewer points. And they went 3-9, but you can also say, hey, we're just a couple plays away from maybe being 9-3. He doesn't have a lot of time left. Frost has got to start getting, no more moral victories, no more close losses. He's got to start winning some games, and I think there'll be a ton of attention on that game because it's on Fox. It's probably the biggest game of the weekend.
Strategic watching habits, Brian Murphy. I see what you're doing. Scott Frost took over at Nebraska in 2018. He has a 15-29 record. He is 10-25 in the Big Ten. And I know that both Nebraska and Northwestern went 3-9 last season. But again, the game on Fox in Dublin, that'll certainly be exciting. And for nitty-gritty guru fans who just can't get enough of college football, I have one player to watch in this game that's on Northwestern's offensive line. He's an offensive tackle, Peter Skoronski. It's an All-American preseason, and if you want to watch someone manhandle other players at the line of scrimmage, he's the guy I have my eye on in this game. But hey, I mean, college football's back. Florida State in the other ACC game, they'll host Duquesne, year 3 of the Mike Norvell era in Tallahassee as well. So look, like, even though there's only 11 games, and that Nebraska Northwestern game is the only of the 11 with 2 Power 5 conference teams, like, Brian, I had no problem finding storylines because I'm just so excited football's back.
Well, Charlotte plays. Charlotte is on the road playing Florida Atlantic. There are 5 Mountain West teams playing, including Hawaii and Wyoming, which get shots at lower tier Power 5 schools. Hawaii's got Vanderbilt. Wyoming's at Illinois. I mean, obviously for the ACC, the SEC, the season doesn't really start till next week. But for the Mountain West, which is trying to make sure that its champion gets in, the New Year's Six, games like that are super important. So there are lots and lots of storylines. And as you mentioned, an appetizer to get you ready for next week when the main course arrives.
I know I'm not going to be satisfied off the top. I know that. But Brian Murphy, to any listeners or viewers watching this, I would encourage them, go check out his work. Brian, you've done fantastic work reporting on the bigger picture storyline of revenue at the ACC, the future of the conference, given recent expansion with Big Ten, the Big Ten's new media rights contract that they just signed. So I'd encourage anyone to go check that out on WRALSportsFan.com.
I appreciate it. One of the beauties of this week, NIL, the transfer portal, conference realignment, conference revenue, all that kind of gets pushed to the side. And now we kick it off and we actually get to watch real football, which I think is the main reason people like college sports.
Brian, happy birthday to your daughter. Is there anything else before we wrap up here?
That's it, Mark. I appreciate you having me.
For Brian Murphy, I'm Mark Bergin. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the week 0 action of college football. We'll see you next time.